Welcome back to Steve Stuff channel. I'm just soaking up the atmosphere, the beautiful atmosphere of this lovely interior that is now finished, which means I can move on to outside stuff, which is what this episode 8 of Leyland Atlantean 1101 restoration is going to be all about. It's bumper bars, front, rear. Front needs a crack welded up. Rear's got some fiberglass damage. I need to fix up. It all needs to be sanded back. I want to paint them both. There's also some repair underneath the front bumper along the fiberglass panels that need to be done, and just a general tidy up before I get them back on. So this episode is all about bumpers. Let's get stuck straight into another episode of Steve Stuff. And off she comes. So while that's off, I can get in there and clean up. I had to do this on 1128 as well. Do a little bit of fiberglass repair here. I can swap out those lights and the rims, tidy up the bracketry, and actually paint under there. It's a lot easier to do this stuff with the bumper off. And now that the bumper is off, it's very straight until we get to here, and there's some damage top and bottom. So what I'm going to do right now is clean that up, get it as straight as I can, and then the next time I'm here, I'll give it a weld. It's actually bog and filler in there, so I don't know who's tried to repair this. I'd say it's Egan's because it's in their paint. There seems to maybe even be a weld there already, so I'm going to just get it back to bare metal and grind it down and try and grind it into a V so that I can get some material in there. Listen to me, I'm trying to sound like I know what I'm talking about. Just trying to show you here what I'm trying to fix. You can see that there, that bar, the gap follows the body of the bus around. Okay, now if I come to this side where there's obviously been like a damage done, if I push that back into the bracket and hold it there, you can see that does not follow the body around. So I've got to squeeze that in that way without snapping it there. In my infinite wisdom, or not, I guess we'll find out, I thought, well, if I want to bend this around, it's the same as when you try and bend anything in a curve. You notch it, right? So I'm just trying to notch out where the weld was that they did,
and then I'll get it on the bus, try and manipulate it around with a bit of force and get it to where I want it, and then that will be where I do the new welds. Okay, it's a shit weld, but it's done what I wanted it to do. It's brought that curve right back in to follow the body line. So what I'll do, it's almost time to pack up now. I'll clean that up and then I'll weld on the inside and the bottom as well. And that's the job done, I guess. Awful weld though, isn't it? First chance I've had to come back down since the weekend. It's Tuesday night and I'm under lights, as you can see. It's like I've got my own little workshop here. It's the closest thing I have to a lit workshop. I've got a couple of hours. It's good weather, so I thought I'd come down and take that bumper off where I did that chunky weld the other day. I'll take it off and I'm going to weld on the inside where the crack is. I'm happy with the shape that it's taken, so it's pretty good. And I'll just take it out, get it up on my special workbench there and weld on the inside, then tidy up the outside ones. Okay, after a little bit of mucking around and bad welding and grinding, I managed to get, that's the inside bottom. Looks like there's a little bit of material could go there. I'll try the other side in a minute. And that's the top. That's come up okay, I think. That should finish up nicely and paint up okay. And that's the bottom. No one will see this, but that's after I've ground it all back. It's a little tiny pinhole there. It's not going through, it's just a little crater. That'll fill up with a little bit of putty when I prep it for paint. So I think that's fixed up all right. Let's hang it on the bus and see if it's still sitting all right. Yep, so that hasn't busted free. That weld has held, and I think I've just strengthened it up so you can see that's following the line now. And if I come over to this side, it follows it around the same contour. Whereas before it was poking right out, and it had obviously taken a hit there at that weak point. So, good. It does look like it's poking out a little bit far there, but let me just go back, double check. Yeah, it does come out at the same angle. I've got a little bit of play. I can pull it towards this side, like so, and over here. There we go.
I know, I should have a mask on. I couldn't find it. But I thought, because the bumper forms part of the face of the bus, I want it to look as good as I can get it to look, which means a long stripping wheel out. It's going to take a while to get all this paint off. You can clearly see here, there's a ding, and I've actually just dug some bog out of that. So I'll probably just skim over that as well, try and make it look as straight as I can, knowing from experience with 1128 that if you get anything wrong with the front bumper, as soon as you get some gloss paint on it, it shows it up and it looks shit. So I'm going to bang on with this just for a little bit longer, and then that'll do me tonight.
Surprisingly, I almost got it all back to bare metal before all my batteries ran out. I think I ran through 2.5 batteries. The grinder really chews up the battery juice. Geez, don't say that 3 times. Battery juice, battery juice, battery juice. Some of you will get it. But there we go. So I'll hang that on it's nearly 9 o'clock now anyway. I'll hang that on the bus, come back in the morning and finish that off, and then give it a coat of primer. There we go. Surprisingly, there was no black paint under there. There was only Egan's green and some primer. And I don't know, I don't think that orange, that could be a primer, or it could be just surface rust that's coming through under the paint. But I made a mess here. I'm going to get it tomorrow from the yard manager probably for having dust everywhere. But there she is, looking better already. There's the repair I did. That looks pretty good for the bush, pretty good for an amateur. It'll clean up better with a little bit of filler in it. And once it's painted, it should look great. Again, there's the side that was off. It was just off enough to annoy me. And it now matches that side. So that's it, bedtime. Time for a cup of tea and throw a crochet rug over my legs. First thing in the morning, I've come down, I'm going to take that bumper off, give it another sand, and then some primer, maybe even fill. You can see better now. There's the repair job I did. You can see there's a little bit of a bump in there. I'll see if I can smooth that out a little so it's not so prominent. And we'll also have a look at what's underneath there. I know this side does need a little bit of a fiberglass repair down about here on this corner. So let's get stuck in. I've got a couple of hours before I have to go to work. You can see here now, that's going to need a bit of a patch job, a repair job. A rivet there. Most of these Atlanteans do get a little bit of a stove in there. They've all touched that bumper at one point or another. It's really hard to get in behind there, not actually possible, so that will have to stay, but it's hidden by the bumper. Over this side, not so bad. Just use a little bit of fiberglass putty, try and straighten that out a little bit. Fiberglass filler, I mean. And I'll get these lights out. They seem to be easy to do whilst the bumper is off. Get them out. I've got some, I'll clean up those, and I've got some better lenses, and also give this tow hook a tidy up. I'm just about to pack up. I've got to go and have a shower and get ready for work, but I've just tidied up underneath the bar to see what needs doing. So that will get away with just some fiberglass filler. This all just needs to be tapped out and straightened up a little bit. Rivets and things will help. Over here is where there's some more substantial damage and cracking, so this will need a repair. I think on 1128 I went in behind it, and yeah, this corner here needs some tender love and care. We'll do that. I might come down tonight after work. It's difficult to work under lights and it's quite cold, but we'll see how we go. But for now though, I have to go to work. Just quickly, this is the bar now with some primer on it. Epoxy primer. I'll give it a sand back and see how it looks. Just hung it on the bus. So that looks nice and straight. That part there, I was thinking of putting some filler in. I think I might just leave it. It looks okay. There's the repair I did with some primer on it now, and she's looking nice and straight. I'll tell you something I did just see that disappoints me. I was just putting my tools away in my little shed out the back here, turned around and looked up and saw with dismay the glue has failed. Damn it. So that means I've got to get back in there, take that back seat out and that whole panel, and try something else. Obviously, this gets full sun most of the day. I've either used shitty glue or haven't put enough on there. Poop. Anyway, job for another day. After work, again. There's the bumper now. The primer's all dry. And you can see that looks good. The contour of the body is a lot better than what it was. So I was just in the ferry on the way home thinking, okay, what can I do tonight? I can maybe do a little bit of fiberglass repair, maybe get some colour on that bumper. And then I thought, it's pretty cool and the air's quite damp, so I don't think it's good conditions for either of those jobs. Anyway, I'll just I'll have a hunt around and see what I can come up with to do. Okay, here's the plan. I'm going to wire brush all the inside of this bar, and I found some fiberglass filler, so I will mix up a little bit of that and have a go at that. Familiar looking colour. That's just one coat on the inside. That'll keep it kind of surface rust proof and matches that bus. Painted those brackets at the front and got some fiberglass resin just around into these areas here that need to be patched. It's pretty rough, it looks pretty rough, but as long as it sets overnight, I'll hit it with the sandpaper later, and a bit over here as well, and then around that side. Most of that's hidden by the bumper, that bit there isn't, so I hit that as well. That was a crack that I didn't notice before, and hopefully it'll harden. It's not as wet and dewy tonight as it was last night, so the conditions might be okay for that to go off and for that paint to dry. So that's the job tonight. Got the bumper back on, painted on the inside, and I did the bracketry and the studs, and I can't do anything else because I've got to wait for all that to dry now. So just a short night tonight, back in the morning to see if it's all set, especially that fiberglass filler. Just standing here under lights and looking up at that corner there and the shadows. Man, that is going to be one hell of a challenge. The rear quarters on the Merlin were a challenge, but they weren't as bad as that. Uh-oh. That to look forward to. Just wanted to rough up that primer a little bit so I can get some colour on this, which I'm going to do right now. This could be problematic. We're probably right on the edge of the parameters for painting. It's pretty cool this morning, and they say don't paint under 10 degrees. I reckon we're probably about 11 or 12. It will get some sun though, and hopefully while I'm at work today this will dry and I can recoat tonight. I do love this paint. It's it just comes off the roller so well, and it just glosses up beautifully. Okay, that's one coat. You can see we've got the right family there. That's the original on the rear bumper. as it's faded over its time up in the sun, it's kind of faded out a bit greener than what this is. But this is actually, this colour has been taken from one of the wheels. So it's correct, and you can see. Anyway, that's one coat. I love this paint, it really does gloss up nice. I'll leave that today while I'm at work. I'll come down tonight and chuck a second coat, although maybe not tonight, it was a bit dewy again last night. Repair came up good, painted up nicely. I'm pretty happy with the way the whole thing has come up. It's going to look good back on the bus. Now let's go and have a look at the fiberglass that I repaired last night. Okay, so these have all hardened nicely all the way along and all the way around, so I can start rubbing these back. Decided to take these near side, that's the parking light, that's the indicator, take this out because I'm going to start spraying some high field putty around these repairs shortly, but someone's very nicely marked them for me, near side, I don't know what that word is there, but this one says near side park, so that'll help. And I'll just take note of what the polarity is there with those wires, take those out, keep them safe. Now, even though this is all going to be hidden underneath the bumper, I still want to make the repair as good as I can and as well presentable as I can. So I'll spray some high fill putty over that, come back tonight after work, give it another sand, and then we'll get some primer on it and move along to the next job. Okay, yeah, so I've been a bit heavy-handed with that, but it does show up where there are cracks and things that do need to be filled, little imperfections. Again, all hidden behind the bumper, but I want to make it look as good as I can before I get that final paint on. Back again, working under lights. I'm going to keep going with the repairs here along the side there tonight, along the bottom. I was going to give the bumper a second coat of paint, but they've been warning us all week that we're going to get quite a bit of rain this weekend, so this might be my last chance to play tonight, and I'm scared if I paint anything and it rains overnight, it'll ruin it. So I'll just keep going on what I can get done tonight and see what happens in the morning. I've just drilled the rivets out of this, well, it's basically it's a trim strip, it's a join, and it's got that kink in it there. I'm going to try and get that kink out and make this look a little bit better before I put the bumper back on. Righto, so new rivets there. I just pulled that kink out a little bit. Unfortunately, it went back in when I riveted, but quick fix, makes it look a little bit tidier. Now there was an area around here I think that needed a rivet right there. We'll put one in there now too. I'm going to try a little something here. There's a rail underneath there, but it only goes to here and then it bends away. I'd like to rivet that to it, but then if I do that, it's going to make it really hard to get this repair to sit. So I've got an idea. Right, so if I get that up in there, run a rivet maybe there, then that gives me overhang to about here, and I can get a rivet into that. That's going to pull that in and hopefully make that repair easier. So I'll try it and see what happens. Okay, so I've got one in there. I might stick another one in, and then this side, maybe one or two. then I can grind the heads off a little bit so that I can do this fiberglass repair. Remembering this is all hidden. So what I'm trying to do is just make it sit properly. That's nice and strong now. That's the frame, that's riveted to the frame, and then that extends out here and holds this in. So that doesn't even need fiberglass repair now, that just needs a little bit of filler. I'll just tidy up these rivets and then proceed. I'll just get a little bit of filler on that. That should hold nicely. If I've done my backyard calculations properly, I think that's a decent repair. That's how she looks. Now, belt and braces, maybe, but at least it'll stay there now and it's nice and strong. Well, that's where I'm leaving it tonight. This side needs some more work, but the fiberglass repair at the front there should be nice and strong. I've just put some more high fill primer on that, some filler, and that needs a few more sandbacks and a few more coats. This side starting to look better, as you can see. Let's walk past the light. That's starting to look pretty good. I'll probably go over that one more time. It's good enough to be hidden behind the bumper bar. Up here though is not hidden, so I've really got to take care there. There's just a lot of little dings and cracks and things that the paint will probably cover, but I'll do it properly. I'm going to open a beer, sit down and admire my handiwork, and then the last thing I do before I go is put the bumper back on. How good does that look? Just sitting there at the moment, the bolts are just finger tight, just to get it up off the ground in case it does rain tonight. That is all completely dry though. Nice and straight. There's the repair. Look, I'm not a welder's asshole, but I mean, that's good enough for who it's for and what they're paying. That's going to be the last thing I do. If I wake up in the morning and it hasn't rained yet, I'll pop back down and do some more of the body work. Otherwise, that'll probably do me until the weekend. Well, good morning. Bit of a dull old day. They did forecast rain to begin late morning today, early afternoon, and then all weekend. So I just thought, it's not raining yet. I'll come down and try and finish off a bit more of that bodywork around the headlights. I popped the bumper on last night. It's painted and looks great. So yeah, just want to finish up a little bit of the front area. No sunnies today. Someone asked me the other day, why do you always have sunglasses on in your videos? I had my eyes lasered probably 20 years ago, 23 years ago or something like that. And ever since then, I've just got this kind of sensitivity to light. So I just wear them when I can. It helps my eyes from not being sore. I don't think I'm Corey Hart wearing my sunglasses at night. Anyway, while we've got some dry, let's get some work done. Well, the battery just went flat, so I'll go and change that, but it gives me a chance to stop and show you that that high fill putty is doing its job. It's showing me where the low spots and the high spots are, where I need to redo. So I'll go and get another battery. I'll keep going on that, then give that another 2 coats of the high fill, and then that can dry, hopefully before it starts to rain. The other side is more progressed than this side, so I'll hit that lightly with a higher grit paper. This side a lot less damaged and is coming up nicely. I'm just going to do another coat of high fill primer on there. There's a couple of deep bits there that need a little bit more down there. Most of this is hidden by the bumper, but it's looking pretty good.
More sanding, and you can see again that high fill prime is doing its job. It's filling up little holes. They're just little holes in the old paint and things. Unfortunately though, I've got to be careful here. This fiberglass is getting very thin, and that hole, I'm not going to be able to get around not patching that. There's another little area there that I'll do. Maybe that, I'll put a bit in there. So I'm going to mix up a little bit of filler before I go and just pop it into those areas and let it set while I'm at work. And if it's not pouring with rain tonight, I'll come back down and check it. Even those cracks there, although that's behind the bar, so maybe I'll just leave those. A little bit of filler in some of those really low spots and the cracks. And this side is coming along. That's where we're going to leave it right now. I'll put the bumper back on. I've got to go to work. Fingers crossed we're not in for a really wet weekend like they're forecasting.
Well, they got the forecast right. It's absolutely miserable. It's absolutely flogged down for a couple of hours. It's Saturday afternoon. I've worked already, and I thought I'd come down and see if there's anything I can do here. That paint looks good. It's stayed dry. I don't think I'm going to get that rear bumper out. Not while the ground's as wet as it is, but I want to go inside because we have had so much rain and see upstairs if I've managed to stop all that water getting in. So you can come with me while I do this. Ah dear, and that would be a no. That's still coming in there. There's quite a lot of water here, which means it's going to be a lot downstairs as well. Okay, I don't understand where that's coming from. I thought I knew it. I didn't. Bugger. What I don't understand is it's only that window. None of the other windows are leaking. That's why I thought I'd fixed it by riveting up that rail and repairing outside that window the other day. But as you can see, none of the others here, there's drips there but they're outside, none of the other windows are leaking. It's a bloody mystery. Yep. And then here we see the result of the water making its way down from upstairs to here and then dripping there. Okay, as Marvin the Martian said, back to the old drawing board. This is the view from the back seat. It's just pouring with rain. And I'm looking at that water up there dripping, and I'm starting to wonder, could it be because the bus is on a lean? It's leaning to the offside, and it's simply because of the way the ground is that I'm parked on. I'm wondering if that's got something to do with it. These side windows are draining as they're designed to, probably a little bit more efficiently because the lean is helping them, whereas this side, the water is slower to drain because the lean is not helping. Could be. It's going to have to wait till a dry day before I can inspect. I also wanted to get the rear bumper off this afternoon and maybe take it home and work there undercover, but wow, listen to that. I'm at the back. I'm trying to remember, because I had the bar off. I had to completely rebuild the bar off the other double-decker. It was destroyed. So I had to re-fiberglass it and everything. Just trying to remember how this attaches. So there's a bracket. I think there's 3 of them along the back, and they're actually fiberglassed into the body of the bumper. And then you can see there, they bolt through this rear rail that's all part of the bustle. So with the bonnet up, I'm kind of protected from the rain a little bit. There's also 2 bolts around on either corner. I'll show you. There's 2 bolts there as well. So that's how the bumper wraps around the rear. I'll have a go at this while the rain isn't so bad and while I've got the back up and I'm a little bit drier. What I wouldn't give for an undercover workshop. This will just have to do for the day. Sunday morning, and I'm smiling because we caught a break. The rain blew away overnight. Today is quite clear. The forecast for exactly where I am right now for the rest of the day is cloudy and windy. The wind is good because it's dried up the wet ground somewhat because it was very, very wet yesterday afternoon. It absolutely poured down. So I need to get into this rear bumper again. I got 6 of the 8 bolts out that I need to. The remaining 2 are over near that shed, and it was a bit hard to get under there. It was a hollow full of water. I gave up and went home. That's all good now. I've got access in there. I'll get in, get those last 2 bolts off, get this bumper off, and hopefully get some paint on it by the end of the day. So you can see here where I need to get into, and it was quite a tight access spot. I was going to try and move the bus forward, but I don't need to now. But this was also full of water, and under here was full of water. It wasn't a fun place to be, so I gave up. But today, a little bit of water coming off that cover. I should be able to get in there. That is not factory. There should be like a bolt head fiberglass in there like that one. Obviously it's broken at some point, so I'm going to have to get 2 spanners onto that one. The good news is they've all been coming out quite well because they live here in the engine bay, in the engine compartment, in the bustle, covered in oil, don't get a chance to rust. So I left a bolt in each bracket last night, and just to keep it safe and rigid so it wouldn't pop out if it got windy or whatever, and these corners are quite weak. You can see there's a repair here I need to do. So this is the last bolt. It should come out, and then I should just be able to slide the whole bumper out that direction. It's been a while now since I did 11/28, so it was probably, well, it was one of the first things I did because it needed to be completely repaired and rebuilt. So it would have been probably 3 years ago at least. Okay. Very carefully. They are so fragile. And there we go. Now let's make us up a nice workbench where we can start to work on this. Let's take a closer look at what we've got. See what I mean about weakness in the corners? It's always prone to cracking there. So I'll sand that back, try and maybe give it some strength underneath. I think with 11/28, I actually fiberglassed a piece of tube in there. I'll go and see what I can find laying around in the scrap. This is all pretty good. All just needs to be filler. That's the back of the bracket. We don't want that popping out, so I'll strengthen that up somehow. And here we get to this corner that does need some help. So looks like we've got a breakage here, which I'm not going to be able to repair. Try and just fix it up as best I can. So we've got a bit of a day ahead of us. Just threw that third leg in there just to be super sure that it maintains its integrity. I don't want to go pushing the sander down and snapping the whole thing. So the first thing I've noticed is rivets here. Must have been probably a do not overtake turning vehicle sign or something. Just one of the safety signs that you've got to have these days. Someone's taken it off and just broken all the rivets. I'll get rid of them and then I'll start to sand it. So I just hit it with the 40 grit sanding disc just to loosen up some of this flaky paint, identify areas that need fixing. You can see that original blue, Sydney Mandarin blue coming through there. That's what colour the bumper at the rear was the colour of the body. The bumper at the front was black. I've just got to keep running down there. So I'll keep going over this with the sanding disc. I won't show you that, it's just boring. And then I'll mix up some filler, fiberglass filler, and start filling where it needs to be filled. So I've just been around, sanded most of that flaky stuff off, and then that showed where I need to do some filler. I've circled everything that needs attention with the filler, and I'll do that next. These side areas are hard to work on in this position, so what I'll do, once I get everything filled on here, while it goes off, I'll take this off my state-of-the-art workbench and lay it on the ground so I can do the sides. you don't realise how long they are on the bus. So again, I'm just going for the fiberglass reinforced. It's just got little fibres in the filler and it hardens really quickly. You'll probably see I've borrowed a couple of Matt's workbenches. There's no one here, it's a Sunday, I'm the only one stupid enough to be working. As long as I put him back, he'll never know. Although he probably watched me take them on the cameras. While I'm waiting for that to set, you may have noticed this contraption here and wondering what it is. When I was here yesterday, it was pouring with rain. I noticed the water was coming down through those drain holes up in that rail, all the way down here and just pelting straight down into those taillights. And if you go back to the rescue video where we got the bus from Maitland, you'll remember I took these lenses off and 2 out of the 3 were rusted completely out because they'd been filling with water, and that's where. So I just put that on there to stop them getting any worse. That's why I haven't changed them yet. So they still should be jerry-rigged the way I wired them up just to get us home. And one of these days I'll get around to putting some new bases and lights in there. The other thing I could do while I'm waiting for that resin and stuff to set downstairs is get at this desto box again, which means taking that back seat out and that rear cover. Bit of a faff, but I might as well do it while I'm waiting. So the mistake I made with this one that I didn't make with the front one, because remember it had that aluminium plate in there with the number 14 on it. So I cut holes in the plate, glued the numbers to the plate and then riveted the plate in. I didn't do that with this one. I just glued the numbers around here and shoved it in, and the glue failed, the weight of the fabric. So I've gone and found myself a little bit of aluminium. I'm going to cut out the holes similar and do the same thing, and then that way that will sandwich the numbers in and they can't fail. Rivet, 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 rivet. So my batteries keep running out on my tools. This is quite thick aluminium, it's all I could find, and the grinder just keeps running flat, so that job is waiting for the charger. I've always loved this shape, the way they've put that kind of concave feature in the bumper, but it makes it difficult to get the orbital sander in, and I thought I'm going to have to do some old-fashioned hand sanding, and then I remembered this bloke. He gets in there nicely. So again, that's high fill primer, and I've just put a bit on so I can see what areas need more work, which areas would look bad when painted. I'm still fiddling around up this other end, so I just thought while I'm doing that, I'll let this high fill dry and then hit it with a higher grit paper and see how she looks. So that's after about half an hour of sanding with some 120. I'm still not happy with it, and I still have to get to the sides. I've been thinking about what to do here. There's a break here and all the way down to where it picks up there. So I've got an idea similar to what I did on the 1128 bumper, because this was all completely snapped off. I had to rebuild the whole thing. I'm not sure if I want to go to that much trouble, because this is the bottom. When the bumper's on the bus, it's not really visible. It'd just annoy me. I'll see how I go. Here's where we're at. Got to do the sides, prep them yet. I've just put some more filler in some of these cracks around here and along the back. It's starting to shape up, needs another fine sand. I'm just trying to tidy this corner up. I'll let that go off then I'll sand it back, and then it'll get a coat of grey primer, and that'll have to go off overnight. Something else I've done while I've got the bumper off, I probably didn't need to, but I fish oiled all under there along that chassis bar. All those screw holes and everything have been WD-40. Like I said, probably doesn't need it, but can't hurt. Did the brackets on either side as well. It's getting late in the day and I'm running out of time to get anything done. Still got a few little bumps and hollows along there that should sand out, because very shortly, as soon as this high fill primer dries, I'm going to go over it with some 120 grit paper again, and then I'm going to hit it with the primer, the grey primer, which is nice and thick and should hide any of this stuff. Hello, we've got a bug committed harikari. So for the most part, it's looking a lot better, and when painted, should look great. As you can see, I'm losing the light very quickly. Just got to get this last coat of primer on, and then we're done for the day. As you can see, the sun is setting. We got so lucky today. It did not rain and I managed to get all of this work done. So that's just a final coat of primer. That primer is quite thick. It's made by the same mob who make the paint I use as the top coat, and they suggest using that first before I top coat it. Also, it's thick enough that it hides a lot of the finer imperfections that I didn't get. There's a few bigger ones, but for the most part, I'm happy with how that turned out. I'll come down tomorrow. It's oil based, so it takes a few hours to set. I'll come down in the morning before work, and if it's ready to go, I'll give it a sand and possibly a second coat. But there she is, shining in the sunset. Soon to go on there.
That's going to do it for tonight. You can see I've lost the light. If you're enjoying the video, please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already to Steve Stuff. There's the bumper. That's where it's got to go. Hopefully in the next day or two, the two will be back together. I'll come down in the morning before work, tomorrow night after work, until I can get some colour on that and get it bolted back in there, and then that'll be it for the bumper issue. Episode 8. See you tomorrow. Nice day to do some sanding. Hopefully, nice day to get some paint on this and get this back on the bus. Let's go.
I'm really not that happy with the way this primer has reacted to the sandpaper. You can see there's some rough bits there. I really can't do much more about. I don't think it likes having the high fill underneath it. Anyway, for what this bus is going to be used for, I think this is good enough. Once I get paint on it and get it on the bus, it should look okay. I mean, it looks a lot better than it did. Put it that way. I've just put a second thick coat of that primer on there. Look, it's not going to win any awards, this bar, but it looks a heck of a lot better. See, there's area there I just could not get to flatten out. It's behind the bracket. It looks a heck of a lot better than it did. It's going to be okay on the bus. Like I said, it won't win any awards, but I know when I'm fighting a battle I'm not going to win. It's better just to leave it now, get it looking as good as I can, and paint it. So I'll let that dry for a couple of hours, come back to that, and then get some colour on it.
Never mind the mess behind me, she's a work in progress, as you know. One of the fun little jobs I like doing is putting jewellery on. Usually that's at the very end of a build when the paintwork's all good and everything, but on the front where I've got that paint on around the headlights and the blinkers and parkers, I thought I'd put the lights back, and then thought, why put the old cruddy ones back on when I've got a box of decent ones? So this is one of the things I like doing, is going through and seeing which lenses are in the best condition, things that I've just managed to, accumulate and find, especially over the restoration of the other double decker. It's the same model. So I'm going to pick the best rings I've got. I'm going to pick the best lenses I've got. Made myself some nice bright and shiny. Remember I showed you that trick on the tail lights of this bus? Anyway, so I'm going to mess around in there. See, there's some original light switches. Mess around in my little box of spares here and come up with the best lot I can get on the front.
Well, I brought this job home. So I just didn't know where I could clean these down at the bus yard. So while I'm waiting for that bumper to dry, I thought I'll come home. I've put everything I've got, including, well, the best ones I have. There's a couple here that are out of contention. So I pulled them all apart. They've got these awful, annoying little clips that hold them in at the back. You've got to be careful they don't spring out and disappear. So I'm going to let them soak for a while, wash them all up. While I did that, I made some pie tins out of the bases. The bases were all rotted out, pretty much. They just do that. They get water in them and they rust. So to restore that level of brightness again, I did the old alfoil trick. I've got 6 chromes to choose from. They're all very good. All of the pie tins are done, and the best lenses I have. I'll just show you though, if I look. See how lovely and orange that one is. Then if I hold up that one, it's got a little bit of fading. I've got a spray tin of amber lens paint down in the shed. I'll hit it with that, see if that brightens it up a bit. Can't complain about that, they look good. Kettle's on, time for a cup of tea. See,
It's colour time.
Let that dry off a little bit for an hour or so. I've got other things to do, and then I'll hit it again, and by the end of the day it should be dry enough that I can hang it on the bus. Before I do that, I'm going to paint these two here,
In the Sydney livery, these were body colour, the same as the bumper and the body, but it seems to me, I can see some evidence there that Egan's had them painted the same colour as the bumper. So that's what I'll do. I've just hit them with some rust converter. I'll wipe that off now and give them a paint. Something else I'm doing while I'm waiting for paint to dry and I've got rollers and brushes wet is just going to finish off above that stripe there, just to get the lower face finished with paint on it for the time being. I'll come back around and tidy it all up later. But once I've got that done, I can then put all the trim rings, the blinkers, the parking lights, the badge, the school bus sign, number plate, everything back on there. Some other little jobs going on here. These are the rubber bases for the front indicators and parking lights. I've given them a drink of this stuff. I just like to try and revive the rubber back. I mean, you can't get new ones of these. They're in good condition. One of them's a little out of shape. So I'm just going to let them drink that in. And the other thing I'm doing is with the pots, the actual light pots that go into the bus, I'm just going to treat. They've all got a little bit of rust at the bottom here where they obviously get a bit of water in them. So I'm going to treat them and then put them back in the bus in as best nick as I can. That's just a quick hit front and back with the wire wheel there, and then a squirt of that stuff. And that'll just protect them now and I won't have to worry about them again. Here's something else that's fascinating. This is the plate. Well, it's a base for the number plate. Egan's must have put it on because in running service, these Atlanteans had a smaller number plate. And then going out to private, they had a full size number plate. So Egan's would have put this on. I'll show you in old photographs, you can see it. And it's got the imprint MO, and it would have been 327, and you can clearly see the 6 there. Isn't that crazy? It just blows me away sometimes how well this bus has been preserved. So I'm going to clean this up so when it goes back onto the front of the bus it looks nice and shiny, and then I'm going to give it a coat of clear coat just to save that stuff. It's pretty good clear this too, you can pretty much use it on anything. And the final job I did, waiting for everything to dry, fix that box up. So now there's a plate. The numbers are glued to the front of that aluminium plate, right? It's pretty rough cut, don't worry about that. It's just there so I can get some light behind it. So that is sandwiched in there and riveted in. So even if the glue does fail, which it shouldn't, they won't fall down. Now it's got to go up there, just like that. My favourite job. I've just realised the way these screws screw up into that way, they're a bit difficult to get in and off, or on and off, or in and out with the bumper on. So, best thing to do, remove bumper. Luckily it was all just sitting there, I haven't bolted it all back in, so I can do that now after I get these lights on. Just remembered something. Oh, cut. The other thing I forgot to do, like the complete pillock that I am, is terminate the wires. So I'll do that now. Well, got there. Bumper's all back on. All the nice bright shiny lights are in. They're all working, I tested them.
Now the last thing I need to do today is get that rear bumper on. Well, I couldn't help it. I had to go and put all the sparkly stuff on. That's how the finished product will look. That's how I remember it running in the early 80s. How good. And there is the rear. All on. Just kind of finger tight at the moment. A couple of the bolts don't want to go back onto their old nuts, or I've mixed them up, and you know how old rusty nuts and bolts can be. So I'll try and get some new ones. But there it is, rear bumper on. Looks good. And so does the box upstairs. The bumper episode. And that's going to do it. You can probably tell I'm pretty happy. I'm absolutely stoked with the way everything's turned out. We're finally starting to see a face on 1101. With the bumpers done now, I've got a little bit of front paint done, some of the jewellery back on, because that's where we are now. As long as the weather stays good, I'm going to start doing outdoors things. I think for the next video, I'll try and get the bus out. They've parked a camper van in front of me at the moment, so I can't move. I want to get it out, get the ladder up, and start A, chasing that leak that's still driving me nuts, and B, prepping the roof to paint. I'll paint the bus like you wash a car. Start at the roof, work your way down. So that could be happening in the next episode. I just want to say thank you as well, because we're noticing in the analytics that a lot of you guys are sticking around right till the very end. So please, if you are enjoying the videos, as much as I think you are, I'm enjoying making them, the best thing you can do for me is to subscribe, because that way, the more subscribers I have, the more YouTube then start to push my videos out, recommend them to people, more people watch, etc, etc. As a helicopter comes flying over, police helicopter, I think there's been an accident over there somewhere. So please, if you haven't yet, do subscribe. It costs nothing. You'll get a notation when there's a new video ready to watch and stuff like that. So that's it for episode 8 of the 1101 Atlantean restoration. Thank you very much for watching. Like it, comment if you like. I try to answer all the comments. I'll see you next time on Steve Stuff. I don't even have a beer to cheers you with.